Hello children, welcome to Paradise Lost class 6. So today's class we are going to see how Milton describes the fallen angels. If you have text in hand, please follow line number 282. He scarce had ceased when the superior fiend was moving toward the shore, his ponderous shield, ethereal temper, massy, large and round, behind him cast. The broad circumference hung on his shoulders like the moon, whose orb through optic glass the Tuscan artist views at evening from the top of Fiesole or in Valdarno, the descrying new lands, rivers or mountains in her spotty globe. So in these lines, Milton compares the shield. His ponderous, massy, large and round is actually Milton compares this shield of Satan with the huge size of the moon. Okay, so that is the comparison here, like the moon. Behind him cast the broad circumference hung on his shoulders like the moon. So this is the comparison. The shield of Satan is compared to the huge size of the moon. So when Satan moved towards the margin of the lake of the fire, the huge disc of his shield, which hung on his shoulders, appeared as a big spear of moon, which was observed by Galileo. Okay, the Tuscan artist views. So here, if you see, Tuscan artist refers to Galileo. So Galileo was one of the earliest makers of telescope. So Galileo is the Tuscan artist, and this through optic glass, whose orb through optic glass. Orb is shaped like a ball. Okay, so whose orb is shaped like ball through optic glass. Optic glass is actually Galileo's telescope. The Tuscan artist refers to Galileo. Views at the evening from the top of Fiesole. Fiesole is a hill or a town near Florence. So Milton, if you see, Milton himself got acquainted with the findings of Galileo when he visited him in Florence during his tour of Italy in the year 1638. And he has seen his telescope. And even Galileo was arrested and put in jail for his findings by church. And here the comparison is Satan's shield is compared to the moon, and it appeared as big as the spear of the moon, which was observed by Galileo, the famous physicist and astronomer of Italy. Through his telescope, Tuscan artist views through his telescope in the evening when he sat on the top of the hill Fiesole. Okay, Tuscan artist, that is Galileo, in the evening he views when he sat on the top of the hill Fiesole, or the same place is called Valdarno in order of discover Valdarno to descry new lands. He sat there in order to discover new lands, rivers or mountains. So Galileo sat there to discover new lands, rivers or mountains on the spotted sphere of the moon. So this is the comparison here. So as I said, Galileo's attempts were sensational, victory of modern science in Milton's own time. And Milton has made a wonderfully effective and artistic use of it in this book 1, Paradise Lost, book 1. So in this simile, Milton makes a better comparison than made by Homer. So if you see, Achilles' shield is compared to the moon. But here, Satan's is to the moon as seen through a telescope. So Milton does not confine himself within the limits of rigorous comparison. He expands the casual image beyond the dimension which the occasion required. So thus, comparing the shield of Satan to the orb of the moon. So he crowds the imagination with the discovery of the telescope. So if you see one of Milton's most characteristic literary devices is use of similes. So following the epic tradition, Milton frequently makes use of short and long similes to produce a number of effects collectively. And if you see the next line, the next comparison is his spear. So Satan's spear. Next is Satan's spear. His spear to equal which the tallest pine. So now here, tallest pine tree cut down, Milton says that a tallest pine tree is cut down to make a mast, and even that would be a mere stick compared to Satan's spear. So that is the comparison here. His spear to equal which the tallest pine hewn on Norwegian hills to be the mast of some great admiral were but a wand. Wand is a stick. He walked with it to support uneasy steps over the burning mall, not like those steps on heaven azure. So now his spear, that is compared. So Milton says even the tallest pine tree that is cut down, that is the tallest pine of Norwegian hills, cut down from the Norwegian hills, to make a mast, would be only a mere stick, where but a wand would be only a mere stick, a wand compared to Satan's spear. And next is, with that spear, he walked with to support uneasy steps, to support his painful steps on the burning soil. It is no more over the burning mall, not like those steps on heaven azure and the torrid climb. So it is no more pleasant to walk as on the blue surface of heaven. So Satan needs some support. So the burning region arched over with fire and scorched him painfully. So nevertheless he bore it through. Till he stood on the shore of the burning sea and called his troops angel forms that lay confounded. So he walked over the fire and he called out, he summoned the fallen angels one by one. On heaven azure and the torrid climb, smote on him sore besides, everything is completely vaulted with fire. Nathless he so endured till on the beach of that inflamed sea, he stood and called his legions angel forms who lay entranced. The flames of hell formed a vault overhead, so vaulted with fire. Nevertheless, he so endured till on the beach, that is shore of that inflamed sea. He reached the shore of that inflamed sea, that is the flood fire. Satan reached that shore, and there he stood. Near the shore he stood, and he called his legions, his fallen angels, that is angel forms, who lay entranced, that is who lay spellbound, stunned on the lake fire. He called out their names. Next is also a comparison, description of fallen angels. So this is actually what we are going to see in today's class, Milton's description of fallen angels. So here a description of fallen angels are described: thick as autumnal leaves that strew the brooks in Vallombrosa, where the Etrurian shades high overarched emblow or scattered sedge afloat when the fierce winds Orion armed has vexed the Red Sea coast, whose waves overthrew Brucius and his Memphian chivalry. Thick as autumnal leaves. So here the fallen angels, thick as leaves. So Milton tells that Satan's fallen companions, they lay on the lake of fire as thickly as the fallen leaves of autumn trees that lie scattered on the streams in the shady valleys of Vallombrosa. So Vallombrosa, literally the shade vale, a picturesque spot 18 miles east of Florence. So it is still visited by strangers, as it apparently was in Milton's time. This is the poet's third reference in the course of a few lines. Already he has referred to this line, to this word, to his Italian journey, where the Etrurian shades or abstract shades for trees. So abstract shades for trees. High overarch imbow or scattered sedge afloat when with fierce winds Orion armed. Orion armed is the southern constellation is supposed to resemble a giant with a belt and sword. So the ancients believed its rising and its setting to be attended with the violent storms. So ancients they believed that Orient rising and its setting to be attended with violent storms. So here Milton compares the fallen angels on the lake of fire as thickly as the fallen leaves of autumn trees that lie scattered on the streams in the shady valleys of Vallombrosa, where the thick trees with their arched branches form bowers beneath them. See, high overarch bowers, they form branches, that is bowers beneath them. And secondly, there is another comparison. Milton compares these fallen angels to the scattered reeds on the sea when the constellation of stars called Orion, accompanied with violent gusts of wind, raises a storm in the Red Sea. So that is the next comparison. Okay, high overarch imbow or scattered sedge afloat when with the fierce winds Orion armed has vexed the Red Sea coast. So the next second comparison, listen carefully. These fallen angels are scattered reeds or like scattered reeds. Reeds, it's a plant or like scattered reeds on the sea when the constellation of stars called Orion, accompanied or armed with violent gusts of wind, raised a storm in Red Sea. So the thought of Red Sea also reminds Milton of the overthrow of the Egyptian army. So Milton refers to the incident when the Egyptian troops who pursued the Israelites and were drowned in the Red Sea, with the result that their bodies, horses and chariots floated on the surface of the sea. So these similes show Milton's scholarship and his deep study of the Bible, and he was naturally reminded of the valley of Vallombrosa, meaning a shady valley. Milton had passed some of his happiest days of his life during his visit to Italy in this valley. So Orion is the southern constellation supposed to resemble a giant with a belt and sword. So the ancients believed its rising and its setting to be attended with violent storms. Next is Busiris and his Mephian chivalry. While with perfidious hatred they pursued the sojourners of Goshen, who beheld from the safe shore their floating carcasses. So Busiris was an Egyptian king noted for his inhospitality to strangers. Hercules paid him a visit and slew him. He could not have been the pharaoh or Egyptian king, okay, whose fate is described in Exodus 14. That is, this is adopted by Milton here. So that comparison, that reference is made here. It was Menephtah II who persecuted the Israelites, but Memphis was not his capital. This we see in next class. Thank you.